Thank you for sparing your valuable time to come to this session on future of. It's about 29 years. We worked with some 400 companies. We worked with more than 150,000 placements. We trained a large number of people. We are pan-India. We have multiple offices. But if I have to summarize one single thing, which is the central piece of TMI's work, has been understanding the Indian talent. I have personally been involved in interviewing more than 50,000 people over a period of 30 years. And every interaction, every human interaction has been a great insight to me of understanding human behavior and, more importantly, human talent. How work will be done? And that's the question when we say the future of work. Next slide. These are the three broad parameters I wanted to talk about. As you can see in the graph, this is again not mine. It's published by one of the work done in UK. They're talking about what are the big trends which are shaping the future of work in the UK study. I've just picked it up as a sample. There are many more studies like this available. They're talking about society and the individual is changing on one side. As you can see, the dimensions are there in the slide. They're also talking about the business and the economy changing. But what I would like you to take away from this is the three corners where I've written some material there. One is network orchestrators. Now, what does it mean? What it means is that in 2010, Procter & Gamble sourced more than 50% of their innovation externally versus only 10% in 2001. Now, this is a very interesting data. What does it mean? What it means is saying that companies are depending on resources outside to bring about innovation than inside. And we in HR community must take notice of this. A company, traditionally, many companies used to say innovation is very confidential. We should not share. Data is confidential. So let's do it in-house. It's already changing. And a company like Procter & Gamble, according to this study, has substantially decided, let's go outside and find innovation. Upside down. 10 years from now, people will go and chase smaller companies which are more innovative, more aggressive, and the bigger companies will find it more and more difficult to attract and retain. On the third one, on the left-hand side corner of your slide, it talks about intergenerational differences. Now, what does it mean? They're saying for the first time, you will have 4 generations of people working together. You'll have people in 70s and 60s, people will be in 40s and 60s, 50s. So there will be 4 generations, and HR as a community will have to learn to deal with intergenerational differences within the organization and outside so that they can get max about automation. If you look at automation, the first thing what it means is that what a man can do, a machine can do better. So why can't we automate it? And it started in the shop floors. Today, automobile companies use a lot of robots. So the automation started primarily in manufacturing. Now it's moving into service sector. We are now talking about bots. We're talking about chats, chatbots, and so on and so forth. Now, what is the impact of all of this? How many jobs will go when this automation will come? So this estimates is still low on the list. Only 9% of the jobs will go, but 9% is a big number for India. But I would say that this number will change as time passes. I believe India might jump onto the automation wagon faster if the legislature or the government does not interfere. Unfortunately, this kind of job roles are maximum in developing countries, very maximum in countries like Asia, country like India. So my suspicion is in India, more than 60% of the job roles will be in these 3 categories. That is data collection, data processing, and physical environment, physical work in highly structured environment. So we better take notice of what is the impact according to the mechanism. What do we mean by rule-based or jobs are rule-based? A good example is a doctor. Today, many of us are going to a GP, what is called a general practitioner. General practitioner is a doctor you meet first time when you're not feeling well. You're having a problem of breathing, you go to him, and then he asks you a set of questions. What is the problem? How long has it been there? He touches your body, feels your body. Now, when he's doing all of that, he's applying some rules in his mind. He's eliminating, is it this disease or is it this disease? He's selecting a set of questions to ask you and then reduce the number of problems into saying you are likely to have 2 or 3 diseases, and then he gives you some confirmatory test. Go and take this test. Now, this is a classic example of a rule-based decision-making process, which a GP will do. According to the McKinsey study, large number of people 20 years from now will go to Google and interface with an IBM Watson kind of an interface, which will ask you the same question like a doctor. They'll ask you, okay, how long have you been not feeling well? Did you have this problem? Is it chest paining? Which part of the body is paining? And then reduce it to some analytics which you need to do, and then it comes back and says, okay, you have pneumonia. Now, just imagine this possibility. If an interface on the computer is able to reduce your problem, and all of us start talking to that bot, medical bot, what will happen to GPs? Majority of doctors today in the country in India are doctors who are GPs. In rural India, in smaller towns. So this is a good example. Similarly, there's a case of lawyer, is again a rule-based, and majority of the jobs at the entry level we do are rule-based. So here, this slide basically says that what we thought rule-based is where our difference, human beings have a difference, is going to be lost. What jobs are not at risk? Basically, this slide says that creative jobs are not at risk. And for example, artists, scientists, surgeons, they're going to be not doing non-repetitive job. That means one day you have one set of problems, they have another set of problems. There's no clear path for rule-based decision making there. Second is influencing role. The most classic example is sales. Today I'm talking to you. Now, in a process of talking, I'm also trying to put some ideas for you to think about. And in a way, I'm also trying to influence some thought process in you. Sales is the ultimate form of influencing, where you talk to somebody. At the end of it, he tries to make a buy. It could be a buying of an equipment or a raw material or a consumable item. So influencing role it is believed, or I believe it will continue. Complex relationship management will also be very difficult, like project managers, bureaucrats, jobs requiring a lot of interface, like counseling. Human counseling is going to be one of the biggest job roles which will continue. So anyway, non-repetitive, non-predictable job roles will continue. And that's a good news, but unfortunate bad news is that there are not many roles like that right now in the job market. This means, this is what next few slides I'm going to talk about how work will change based on this type of jobs that will stay and jobs that will leave. First is people will start working in project mode. They will be in small teams, and each project will have a clear goal. The teams will all be selected based on what are the various components of the job they have to accomplish. There will be a team leader, and a lot of automation will also reduce the manpower the team will work with. That means there will be some bot component, there will be real-time employees component. The support teams will be cross-functional. They may be multi-locational, but they'll all come with a single purpose of accomplishing a goal. But the sad part is these teams will have a lot of conflict because they all come in quickly. They have to get into the team format quickly. So there will be small teams, but there will be a lot more conflicts. This is one trend that I see happening because of this changes in the way work will be done. Next changes will be the global gig economy. And gig economy, in my word, in my scheme of things, is that people come, they have some time with them, they have some skills, they want to encash it. They say, okay, I can work for you for 3 hours, I can work for 5 hours a day, I want to make this money, and you have to give me, I can do this very well. So imagine I have a problem, then I go on the system, I identify there's one person who's in New York who can give me 5 hours to solve that problem. So I go online and present my problem, and 3 hours later, 5 hours later, he is presenting a solution, and have an online payment system to be made to him. This is a classic example of a gig job. The gig jobs typically has a beginning and an end, and there are certain expertise required to execute it. Somebody anywhere in the world can get that job to himself, execute it, present the solution, and collect the money. Now, obviously, the gig jobs can vary from 5 hours. It could be a 50-hour job role. It could be a 1,000-hour job role. It could be based on flexibility. To me, one of the biggest change which we are talking about is gig economy. And you will have organizations, will have people. For example, in TMI, there are two sets of people who work with us in large numbers. One is trainers. We have more than 350 to 400 trainers who work on specific assignments for us. They come from, we talk to them and assign them work on Mondays and Fridays, maybe 5:30 to 6:30. So they come and assign their time for that particular job. They're trained to do the job, they execute the job, and we pay them the money and we get our work done. So already it's happening in some way. Our full-time employees trained maybe 400 numbers, but our gig employees more than 1,000 numbers right now. So our ratio is already from what? Traditionally, all leadership came from some kind of knowledge arbitrage. I knew more than you. I knew the legacy. I know the organization better than you. Now, some of these things will be challenged because in the project mode, there will be people who will have expertise on those specific assignments to be done. They will execute. So what will a leader like me do? What will I do? What will I do to the team? What can add value to the team? This is the big question leaders have to ask themselves. The third part is also the bottom quadrant. We're talking about outside knowledge and skills. Is HR today, if you ask my HR manager, okay, I want to get this job done, who can do the job? So his mind is working, oh, these are the people in the company, so-and-so working in Mumbai, so-and-so working in Bangalore. He's only thinking his domain is about people who are in the system. He's not thinking about outside the system. Why? He doesn't know anybody. He's not gone into building into networks of skill sets that I need. So tomorrow, when I said tomorrow in my team, I want to bring somebody who's an expert in branding. My HR manager should be able to go and find out a branding expert who's available online, who can give us, let's say, 100 hours of time, and he works within a budget. He has got the competency to do my job, and therefore I contract with him to do the assignment. So the HR scope has to go beyond a company employee. This is a very important message. Tenures will shrink. It's very clearly already we are seeing that it's already happening at the CEO level. People talk about worldwide tenures of CEOs are shrinking, but we're going to see across the board. We're going to see permanent employees. When you say permanent long-term employees, we are looking at maybe 7-8 years of time. Rest of the employees will be short-term. Some of them on contract basis. They'll work on 2-year contracts. Some of them will have a short tenure because they want to look for better jobs. The attrition will be one factor. Then the big question which we need to ask is, who will maintain continuity? Where will continuity come from? Who will provide the continuity? Sometimes people say processes provide, some people say knowledge databases in the company provide continuity. I believe a lot of external people will come and maintain continuity. For example, auditors will come, there will be process auditors, there will be quality auditors, some people will be specialists in some job roles. They might outlive the employees. Some of the, for example, in our company, some of the people whom we work with on gig workers, some of our contract employees have stayed here for 10 years with us. And they have outlived some of the employees who come interacting with them. So this is also the interesting model. HR, we now will have to think that how business continuity will happen, who will maintain the continuity, what processes we need, etc., etc. Employee relations, yes, power equations will shift from so-called hierarchy leaders. I might be a leader in the hierarchy, I may be a manager, but my executive might do a better knowledge. He has better knowledge and he can do a better job. So power equations will shift towards people who are experts, people who can deliver rather than people who have access to, who have the power or who have access to knowledge and power to disperse money or budgets. Longevity of leadership will shrink. So employee relations will completely change. Now the employee relationship, we are asking motivation of teams come from what? If leaders are supposed to motivate people, how are they supposed to motivate employees now? I think that's a question we need to ask now in the context of project teams and shorter duration, a lot of external workforces or resources working with you. Next slide. Workforces or resources working with you. Next slide. Compensation and rewards also will change upside down. In my mind, there's no annual performance reviews will go. Teams will be paid on projects. They will be contracted on project rewards. The compensation rewards will be linked to their time they spend, their outcome they do. There will be milestone-based payment to employees. A lot of equations are going to change in compensation. Our current model is annually, every employee will go through a review. We'll give them some increments, and employees will stay or leave based on the money they get. Now, all this will be open to question. The annual performance review will be completely revised to project-based reviews. Learning and development. This is a very interesting area. This is where our company works. TMI, one of the group companies called CNK, is an expert in learning and development. And I'm asking that question, what will be our future? Clearly, if skills are going to be in demand, I'm going to monetize my demand, my skills, then I have to invest on my own skill. Companies will stop investing on training and development 20 years from now. They might give a permanent employees might get a percentage of salary for their own economic or social development. Some percentage will go towards knowledge development. So they can go and spend it what they want, but the ownership for learning will shift to the individual. Individual has to decide what skills he want to retain, what to invest in. Part of the salary he has to put in. Company might top it up, but primarily each individual becomes a business because he is encashing his skills and therefore he start investing in his own learning and development. If he invests in learning and development himself, what do I do? What do you do as an employee in learning and development? These are the questions we need to ask. By 2030, three big things are going to happen positively for India. India will definitely be in the top 3 in GDP. The prediction is 10 trillion. I think even recently Times of India carried a story on this, $10 trillion. Prime Minister talks about it. Niti Aayog is talking about how to make in India a $10 trillion economy by 2030. Now it's a good thing for us. That means we will be a world where everybody looking at India. Our products will be everywhere, our people will be everywhere. The second one is about demographics. We are already, everybody knows it's a young nation. It will continue for some more time, this youngest nation in the world. Africa is going to catch up with us. But one important trend about Indian demographics is going to be the young people. We are not producing enough jobs in alignment with the number of young people we produce. We are now 26 to 28 million people are joining in primary schools, and about 6 million children are coming out of colleges. Are we producing enough jobs? No. We are not even producing 2 million jobs to 3 million jobs per year. So then what are we going to do? So there is going to be a big challenge. Demographics is going to be a big challenge. We'll probably, in my mind, in 20 years, India will be a largest exporter of manpower than exporter of commodities like it is today. Politics will change. If people don't have jobs, the more number of poorer people are without jobs, they will dictate policy. And if they dictate policy, they will start impacting us and private sector. The government will interfere and say, we need to do this, you do this. You have to provide certain percentage of income towards CSR, like we have done for CSR, for employee benefits. So I don't know. I think politics will be dictated by people without jobs as we go. First answer, more women are getting educated, but less women are looking for work. Oh, wow, that's a very serious statement I'm making. That means more are getting educated, but less are looking for work. Second, more young males are avoiding work. They want to work. They prefer to sit at home than to go to work. Now, this is again data I'll show you later on. Income inequality is going to kill us. There is income inequality between the richest and the poorest is increasing very rapidly, and that could be a big threat. Fourth is population control is happening in India without Sanjay Gandhi. Everybody in India believes the Sanjay Gandhi period is the period India focused heavily on population control. And in fact, emergency period is considered the period where India really controlled population. But it has big backlash. Indira Gandhi lost the election. So population control is happening in India for different reasons, but without any coercion. That's an interesting data. And the last one is real wages have stagnated. Now, this is something shocking, which you will see. I'll show you on the left-hand side. Shows you how women on the green and white on the last column on the right is at top. You're seeing number 13. In the year 1950, there were 13 women for every 100 men who were in colleges. Go down the same line to the bottom, 86. Today, there are 86 girls in colleges for every 100 men. Now, this gives you an idea. And on the right-hand side shows you how many women are in the colleges. There are 31 million plus people are in colleges. Out of that, the column which talks about men and women, if you see the two bar charts on the right-hand side, currently, there are equal number of boys and girls who are coming out of colleges. There's a huge number of, that number is what, 16 million, 15 million numbers, right? Now, what does that mean? More women are getting educated, right? But if you see that is the GER stands for gross enrollment ratio. the more women and boys are, more girls are joining colleges and they're getting graduating. Let's see the next slide. How many of them are looking for work? This is a very important slide, and I got it from a lot of research. If you see the females in the age group of 15 to 24, there's the line 1 on the top. You will see between 2005 and 2015, more than 7 million women came into the 15 to 24 age group, but 11 million women looking for work in the age group have declined by 11 million. In other words, 7% was the increase in population in this age group of 15 to 24, but 37% is a decline in number of women going to looking for work. Now, this is a very important statistic. What it means is that in the 15 to 24 age group, that is a young group, only 1 in 6 women are looking for jobs. 5 out of 6 women are saying we don't want to work. And 1 in 2 of males are looking for work. Now, this answers my question that more and more women, 1 in 2 boys, young age group 15 to 24, instead of looking for job, that is the age group to look for a job, they are saying, no, we want to sit at home. Now, this is a trend which is going across, and what it means is in terms of economy, it means that more and more people will be sitting at work. Typically, retired people sit at work. Now we're going to see young people sit at work. Young people means idle minds. Idle mind means more crime, more challenges to society. So this is a worrying trend. Next slide. Compensation. The blue graph, what you see is the actual growth in compensation of average factory worker during the period 1999 to 2011, a 12-year period. The blue graph shows the increase in average salary worker after average factory worker salary. But if you adjust it for inflation during the same period, that is the yellow line, it has remained constant. Now, what does it mean? During a 12-year period, our factory workers have remained, our salaries have remained stagnant. Now, that is a very worrying factor. Very traditionally, all anecdotal stories are telling us salaries of workers are going up. Every year they negotiate better. This is not true. This is a million data points we crunched, myself and a professor from TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and Peter Paul. Together we developed this data, and when we analyzed it, we realized that more than the average salary of net salary is stagnated at 45,000 rupees based on the stagnant salary. Now, more importantly, 50% of the industries, the salary actually real wages came down. Now, can you imagine during the same period, we have not presented it here, during the same period, the managerial compensation went up by 2.5 times. That means managers got paid 2.5 times more than the workers. Now, this is the disparity between workers' salary and managers' work salary. A lot more data of this is available with me. Now, this is a very interesting trend. Fertility rates have plummeted by 60%. Now, what does it mean? Fertility is the number of children a woman has. Right? As you can see on the top, it has come down from 5. Now it is almost on the replenishment rate. Replenishment rate is 2.1. If a woman has 2.1 child, then the population remains constant. Now we are almost coming down very dramatically in the last few years to come down to replenishment rates. Now, if you see the urban fertility rate has already reached USA fertility rate of 1.8. USA, the fertility rate is 1.8. The urban woman in India, average number of children they produce is 1.8, less than the replenishment rate. Now, what does it mean? It means even a populous state like West Bengal, if you can see in this chart here, West Bengal is also going to have a lower rate. India population, even though the population growth is coming down dramatically, and we will stabilize, our population will peak by 2060 and 2050 to 60, and will start declining in population. Many of us in India don't believe. What does it mean? Which means when population start declining, people will start looking at higher education. And that is what we are seeing, more and more people getting educated. But if you don't produce enough jobs for them, you're going to see more and more difficult times for the economy. Society will face unrest. We'll have more unemployed youth in the market. So this is a very interesting trend in terms of reduction in number of population, but increase in education rates, and consequently more challenges in terms of retention of young people. And the last one is about income disparity. This slide which talks about the top 10% held 74% of the India's wealth in 2014. Now, The top 1% holds the same wealth. Now, that's a serious thing. What are we saying? What are we saying? We are saying that the people who are richer becoming richer and richer. 1% of India's population holds 73% of the wealth. Is it fair? Can we sustain this? Will people keep quiet? I don't know. But I think this is a bigger threat to India than terrorism. It's a bigger threat than Pakistan. So many of us spend a lot of money on defense. We want to create a lot of defense lines in India and Pakistan. But I want to say to the Prime Minister, to people like you and me, policy makers, that we need to worry about income disparity. In our own small way, we need to help people around us so that they can get a higher income, they can educate the children, they get better quality of life. Otherwise, what is going to happen is it's going to burst. I'm going to literally almost we're going towards the end of the slide, and I think this is what does it mean for HR? I talked to you about project mode, we talked to you about employee relations, about compensation, about L&D. But one thing is, good thing will happen. The individual is going to become the centerpiece of life. Individuals, his talent, his skills, his aspirations, his retention, his compensation. So what we are saying is, instead of right now, what we have done, we have grouped data. For example, HR head looks at data of all employees. Then you drill down the data to one level, department. But we are not drilling down data at the individual level. Is there individual productivity curve? Is one employee different from another? How are they different? One takes a longer life cycle in companies. So I think things like individual productivity curve will impact things like HR operations, attrition, all of the future of HCM. I would say that human capital management will focus on flexibility, predictability of performance, and measurement and modeling. These will become very important. HR heads, HR people will have to talk language of data, metrics, analytics, thick data. And that, I think, is the message I want to leave behind as part of our discussion, right? Some of the questions which CEOs normally ask: who's the next guy? What's happening in the company? Today we're talking about what's happening, how is it happening? It will change into why it's happening to, which is what we are doing now. Why is it happening? Process analytics, saying what will happen next, what will be the future. Predictability will be in the future. So we are showing here the past, present, and the future. How the questions are going to change at CEO level. And therefore, the CEO questions on the right will be very relevant for HR to ponder. And to answer those questions, we have to go into the domain of large data analytics,